everybody. Guess what? My best friend Alexis is on my podcast today.
Hey, everybody.
So I thought Alexis would be really great to interview for this Leo season because she has 3 planets in Leo. And that's a lot of planets in Leo.
That's even news to me. I knew I had Sun in Leo, but I didn't know I had that much Leo in my chart.
Yeah, well, you're going to hear all about it.
Okay.
Okay, so basically, Alexis, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through my interview list here, and I'm going to ask you some questions about Leos, and you just reply the most honest that you can, whether you resonate or not. This isn't like a test or anything. Like, there's no right answer to what I'm asking. So,
Okay.
ready?
So we'll find out.
Great. So, when I first think about Leo, what comes to me is the thought of them being very open-hearted, and they're all often very romantic. And so Leos are like very open-hearted, loving, and that's also like what I think about when I think of you is like ever since we were little high school, I feel like you've always had this like this open heart and like for life in the world, and how we've always just been so like into love.
Well, first, I have to say that's really nice that that's the first thing you think of when you think of Leo. Because I don't know as much about it. And what I've always heard, the first thing I think of when I think of Leo is like self-centeredness and selfishness. So I like that interpretation better. And yeah, I think that's definitely fitting. I think I have a general enthusiasm for things and then definitely for love stories.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, love stories always make me think of you for some reason, just because I feel like, well, because you had a love Tumblr.
Yeah.
And just because that's when I remember watching rom-coms in high school, it was just like always with you and the cross country girls. So
yeah, it still is. Nothing's changed. We've watched several since you got here.
It's true. Yeah, speaking of Leo season, like Leo is so in the air today. It's 8/8 Lionsgate, which you're probably like, what is that? But it's like kind of like the height of Leo season is like this portal where like you just like shine your brightest, and I definitely feel that way today because of this like speak your talent thing that I got accepted for. So Leo is definitely in the air. So which brings me to my next point is that Leos are often very expressive and they could be dramatic. So are there any times in your life that you think you've been like maybe over dramatic?
Definitely. I think a time that we always laugh about is like 10 years ago, we went on a road trip together and the car broke down. It was very stressful. We didn't have any money and we suddenly had to pay for a hotel. So we were sitting in this motel, like very stressed out. And I don't know, I just got upset. And so I said, I'm going to the store. And you were like, can I come with you? And I just slammed the door in your face. It was like, no.
There's that, and I also remember this time. Like I think I wrote about it on my blog where like you had just found out you had a stress fracture in high school. And you just come running in the cafeteria and you're like, Bree, I have a stress fracture too. And you just like jumped into my lap and just like gave me a huge hug. And I was like, aw.
I don't even remember that, but that sounds right. I may have had a flair for the dramatic at times.
I love it. This is why, like, that's why I want more like Leo in my life, because like brings out my dramatic flair, I think.
Yeah.
And just like when I'm around people that are more chill and like don't have that like expressiveness or that like creative flair, like just in how they act and operate in the world, I just don't feel the need to come out of my shell, which I feel like you bring out of me very nicely.
Oh, I'm glad.
Okay, so Leo, they're like often known as like the wide-eyed, like curious one in the world because they're like related to the child. So like Leo is a sign of the child. So often, if you have Leo in your chart, it means that you're either very connected to children and work with children, or you are the child yourself. So would you say you have a like strong connection to children, or that like you feel like a child yourself?
Ooh, well, I've never heard before that Leo is the sign of the child, so that's interesting. And then, yes, I think I would describe myself as being a bit of a child still.
Yeah. I would also say you're really, really good with children, though.
Oh, well, thank you. I don't know about that as much. I like kids. But yeah, having a curiosity is something that resonates with me.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so another thing about Leo is that they're often like, well, I guess like you said earlier, with like people associate Leo with like the ego and like attention seeking. So like, how often do you look to be the center of attention, if at all? And do you feel discouraged if you're not? I'm like, how do I say this nicely?
Well, it's funny that like several of these things that you've already listed are things that I think come naturally to me, but that I've tried to suppress because somewhere along the line I learned that they're negative qualities. And so something I really like about the zodiac is I've heard from multiple people that there's no such thing as like a bad sign. It's just that there are like positive and potentially negative aspects to all of them. And so yeah, I feel like some of the traits that are associated with Leo are parts of my personality I've intentionally tried to tone down. Like needing to be the center of attention all the time, like being loud, like thinking about myself, like being dramatic. Which, you know, there's an extent to which it's probably healthy to tone that down. But I don't know. I think there also probably is some unlearning that can be done there about like the way that you are isn't wrong.
Yeah.
If it makes just because it makes other people uncomfortable.
Yeah. I feel like definitely when I think about Leo, they are like kind of told like in life to like, sit down and shut up, especially if you're a woman. It's
Yeah,
like
definitely.
it's not all about you. Like put your feelings away. Why are you expressively just like, you know, I even remember when we were in high school of like people on the cross country team saying negative things about it. And just being like, calm down, Alexis. And I'm just like, I don't want Alexis to calm down. She's funny.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like I have maybe gotten some feedback about like talking too much or talking about myself too much.
Which I think is why our dynamic works really well together, which I'm just like going to keep bringing this up because I think I'm just like obsessed with the Pisces Leo dynamic right now because it's like they're both these like they're creative they're creatively expressive in different ways, and Pisces is the inward creative expressive and Leo is the outward creative expressive. And so it's like those two together is like such a like great dynamic because you pull it out of the Pisces and like Pisces like sends it like inner to you. Like you like internalize like the reflections that the Pisces make about your like creative process. And so
Ooh. Yeah, because something you and I have always had together is writing. We've been writing each other letters for like 10 years at this point. Really like deep introspective letters too. which I think kind of goes both ways. For me, writing and knowing you're the only one who's going to see it probably isn't so showy. And then for you, I know you've ended up publishing some of that writing on a public facing blog.
Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah.
That's interesting. That's cool to think about. Aww. Okay, so I guess now I'll go into the fact that Leo is a fire sign. So because you have so much Leo in your chart, you probably have a lot of fire sign characteristics, which means like fire signs often jump into things without really thinking about it first. And so you might find a lot of times that you've jumped into something without thinking, because you feel, and especially in Leo, like there's already this like kind of like outward self-confidence that you're like, I'm just gonna do it. And then you might have a lot of like inward reflecting to do after you do it, because you're like, oh wow, now I'm overwhelmed that I did it, and I need to like process this.
Yeah.
So well, like any thoughts on that?
Oh, definitely. Like right now, we're sitting in my house that I bought in Detroit last summer. And when I bought the house, number one, I signed for paperwork without ever having visited it. And number two, it was the first house that I looked at. I saw it and was like, yep, that's perfect. I'll take it. And even the first time I moved to Detroit several years ago, I had decided I wanted to come out here, but I didn't realize until the morning of my flight. I wasn't even at home. I was staying with a friend in San Francisco, and I was getting on my plane to fly from San Francisco to Detroit when I suddenly realized I didn't have anywhere to stay. I hadn't thought to like book a room anywhere, and I just really had no plan. And so when I got out here, I still have this journal entry I wrote from that day saying like, I'm sitting on the floor at the Airbnb crying because I don't know what I'm doing here. Like, I didn't think about this at all. I didn't know anyone here. I had never even visited here before. I just, with no plan, it's like, yeah, that'll work.
Do you think that's a positive or a negative trait?
I think for my personality, it's more positive.
Yeah,
but
I was gonna say, because that's also another thing growing up that I always like looked at you like when we first left high school, you just jumped in a car and drove across the country, and
yeah.
I was like, you can do that. I didn't know you could do that. Alexis is doing that. And so that's just like another thing that like I guess maybe with the Pisces dynamic of me being so like quiet and reserved and unsure and insecure, looking at you do that, I'm like, well, if Alexis can do it, I can do it.
Yeah, and it's like that is a quality that definitely I also have gotten a lot of negative feedback about. People tell me like you're so irresponsible, you don't think anything through. And I don't know if that one like hit me as deep as some of the other things people have told me to tone down. But it's interesting that I think no matter how you are, people are probably going to have something to say about it, because if you're more quiet and reserved, people will say like, why don't you ever speak up? Why do you keep to yourself all the time? And if you have some of the more Leo qualities, it's like, well, why are you so loud? Why does everything have to be about you?
There really is no like winning and like how you should operate in the world. I think that's why I love astrology so much, because it really just shows you like your natural traits are already within you, and it's just like you tapping into like what's natural to you and your energy in this lifetime to like make the best life possible.
Yeah, something I've never thought about before until you said that just now is I like the perspective of turning up some aspects of your personality instead of turning down others. Like, for example, instead of turning down maybe like your focus on yourself, you can turn up empathy and interest in others.
Yeah.
And they're not mutually exclusive. You can have a natural tendency to be in the spotlight and you can work on turning up the part of your personality that shares it with other people.
Right. I like that thought. Thank you. Okay. So, right. So Leo is a masculine sign. And it's actually like, so it's the sign of the sun. So the sun is like outward expression. Um, and it's like about the confidence in the self. It's about like the solar plexus. And so because of this pretty much outer stimulated world that like Leos are more drawn to, they can have more trouble with the like inward processing and like the inner world or like spirituality type of stuff. So I guess that's my question for you is like, do you experience that like there's more of an outward pull to you than inward pull? And do you have do you have trouble at all with like the inward processing?
I think actually I do pretty well with the inward processing. I think I'm a pretty pensive person, so I do spend a lot of time processing.
You have a Gemini moon, and that is about
I was gonna ask,
so,
yeah.
Gemini is just always processing information. Cool, cool. So, all right, now I'm gonna go like a little deeper into your chart.
Okay, this will be news to me too.
Okay, so what I noticed today, looking at your chart again, and the last time I looked at your chart, I knew way less about astrology than I do now. So I'm glad that I'm coming back around to this to talk to you about it. So you have a Sun, a Mercury, and a Chiron in Leo, and it's in your 8th house. And 8th house is related to partnerships. It's related to like spiritual transformation. It's related to like it can be related to like the death of your personality to like start something new. And so what I really think of when I think of the 8th house though is like how one relates to another and like going deep with another person. And so in Leo, that would be a very playful dynamic with others. Like you would probably like really enjoy going out and like meeting others like one-on-one and like really getting to know their inner worlds. And you would be really good at like communicating about that because your Mercury is there. If like you'd have like this natural sense of like going deeper into a person to learn what they're all about. As well as like your sun is there, so that's like your outer expression is like that's how you're like that's how others are seeing you is as this person that wants to like know more about them, like in this like playful, entertaining way. But then I also find it interesting that so your Chiron is there. So in your Chiron, which is this Chiron means a wound that we heal throughout our life. And so it's this asteroid that like does it like the energy that it moves within the cosmos is like when it's coming around, it's always showing us something that like we're familiar with, like we've known that this has been a problem like our whole lives, and that it just like comes back around to like show us like how are you changing, like is this still a problem, like how are you going to heal this wound. And so we all kind of come with it like from birth, and I feel like a lot of it like relates to like family wounding. And so I'm curious about your Chiron because yours is conjunct the sun, which would mean like your self-identity. And so there could be these big themes of like, who are you? Like, who is close to you? Are you like, is this image that you project to others like who you really are on the inside as well? And then also like, because it's in like the house of partnerships, it's like the sun shining, like wounds relating to going deep with others in partnership. So would you say that would be accurate, or like if not, like what do you sort of think that it could be if it is in like that realm?
The first thing that came to mind is with partnerships, like specifically with romantic relationships. I can think of having multiple relationships and where I felt really frustrated with not being seen. I really frustrated with I think I have like a relatively easygoing personality. Maybe that goes back to the curiosity, like just generally being up for anything. And what that has sometimes translated to in my romantic life is that if I'm just so open, it turns into me like doing what they want to do and eating what they want to eat and listening to their music and being in their friend group. And um, so I can think of several instances where I got really frustrated with the relationship and felt like we've been dating for however long, and what do you actually know about me, or am I just reflecting you back to you?
Right. That's interesting. And yeah, and that's also like you probably have had many instances, because I think of the astrological wheel as it's like this timeline that you're traveling, and it's like this like the wheel of life, like it's like the cycle of life is that like Aries, you're born. Taurus, you find attachment with a parent or security figure. Um, Gemini, you start meeting friends in like preschool, like socializing outside. Um, Cancer, you learn what your own feelings are for the first time. Um, Gemini, no, I just said Gemini. Gemini, Cancer. I always do this. Like I'm put on the spot to like do all this.
And then Leo, right?
Yes, Leo is that expressing yourself to others in a creative way, like for the first time in like elementary school, and yeah, like middle school, and then it goes into Virgo, which is about like it starts to go into the relationships of Virgos taking care of one another and like learning your own needs and taking care of others' needs. And then we move into Libra, which is like relationships between people and like talking conversations between people and getting to know others on like a deeper level. And then you reach Scorpio, which is the house that this Leo falls in for you, which is the attachment house of like, or like you're going so deep with someone that you don't know who you are, or you don't know what's happening in the relationship. And so it's like in that moment in Scorpio, there's either a death, which is why people say it's like the sign of death, is like there's a death of what has been happening since like this relationship started, so you can have a new beginning and you rise up out of it into like a new self-identity from like what you learned from the partnership. Or you're able to set boundaries in Scorpio, which is like evolved Scorpio, to like be able to like know who you are in relationship with this other person, and you move into like ninth house growing with this person and 10th house commitment, which is just like interesting. And I bring that up just because it's sometimes helpful to think about like the house. Like I know people are always talking about the sign of what the sign means, but like where the planets fall is actually you're putting two different signs together. Like yes, it's the Leo energy, but it's also the Scorpio energy of that like attachment and like finding who you are next to another person.
That's really interesting.
Yeah. I guess that was a monologue from me. Okay. So we've talked about that. Yeah, so much Leo. The North Node. Okay, so your ascendant is Sag.
Yes.
And I think it's also interesting that you have a North Node in Sag. Did you know that?
No, I don't know what a North Node is.
Great, let me tell you. So a North Node is kind of like this North Star we have in our life of like where we're meant to go so that like everything in our life like aligns.
Mhm.
So we have a South Node, which is like where we once were comfortable. And then we have a North Node, which is like your growth, like out of your comfort zone. It gets you out of your comfort zone to like embrace new opportunities you wouldn't have otherwise embraced. And so for you, it's in your North Node is in Sagittarius, which is having new experiences, but it's in the 12th house of Pisces, spirituality and creative expression. So I just think that's interesting. Like there could be like themes related to like how like authenticity and what like who you are creating, or like that's a bad way to put it, how you're creatively expressing yourself in the world, relating to like a sense of spirituality and how that authenticity is showing up in the world in new experiences in Sag.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, yeah, it's interesting that when I think of Sagittarius, I always think of things like traveling and new experiences in that way, which is something I feel like in the first half of my life, I did do a lot of. I had a lot of different experiences with living different places, traveling, trying different jobs. And in just the past couple years, I've felt a bit of a shift happening for me. Maybe a shift in direction or priority. And part of that, I think, is maybe learning how to have new emotional experiences without without going somewhere else. Like learning how to stay in one place a little bit more and form deeper connections with people, or really evaluate. You spend all this time like gaining new experiences, so what are you going to do with them? What kind of contribution are you going to make in the world?
I love that.
Yeah,
That's just so interesting because well, yeah, with the Sag ascendant, that's like everyone is looking at you as someone that is like doing that, like traveling and having new experiences. And um that's like what people would think of when they think of you, and maybe like looked at your Instagram like, oh yeah, Alexis, like she went to India. um but yeah, with that 12th house, it is having those like deeper experiences that aren't necessarily like place related. Yeah, that's so cool. um I also have a North Node in Sag, and it's
oh, I didn't know that.
yeah, and it's in the 3rd house of travel. So I'm supposed to be traveling. It's like we're switching lives.
Yeah, we've been talking about that, which makes sense. We have, I think, kind of opposite baseline personalities, so it makes sense that to grow, we'd have to swap a bit.
Uh-huh. I like it though, because then if I'm just always like, I don't know what I should do, I'm like, what Alexis do? um, okay. Now I'm gonna talk, I guess, more distinctly about the positive and negative aspects of the sign Leo.
Okay.
Positive aspects of Leo: you inspire and bring out creativity in others. They're a lot of fun and very talented. And they have amazing creative flair. They're very romantic, and they are excellent performers.
Very nice attributes.
Yes. Negative aspects can be,
buckle up,
can be. I have negative aspects too. All the signs have them. Attention seeking, can be overly dependent on approval of others. and they have so much outer expression that the inner world can be overlooked at times. Do you have any other thoughts on positive or negative aspects of Leo?
Oh, overly dependent on other people's approval really resonates with me. That is probably going to be a lifelong journey of learning how to overcome that.
Yeah, it's like already a problem for like everybody. But I guess I feel like, yeah, it would be more with Leo because that's like part of their identity is the performing for others. And so it would just be natural for you to be like stressed about that.
Yeah, and I definitely am. So, how does that pair with Leo being the sign of self confidence, but also being crippled by what other people think of you?
Well, isn't that interesting? So, because if you think about a child, like like the negative aspect of Leo like really does like begin in childhood because like as a child like you don't care, you're just gonna do whatever you want.
Yeah.
But then like people start telling you like sit down and shut up, and so your audience, like who you're performing for, who you're creatively expressing to, this outward stimulation that you need to feed off of, um, are these people. And so if you're not like giving in to like what these people want, then like you have a hard time kind of finding that energy to like keep feeding your sign. And so it's just like a natural thing. I feel it's not, I don't think it's conscious. I just think it's a natural thing that's like, even though you are, it, I guess when it comes to the self confidence, it's like if you think about the sun related to the moon, like Pisces is a sign of the moon, Leo is a sign of the sun. Um, the sun is just bright, it's just shining. There's just energy there. And so it doesn't really have anything to do with like the feelings of it. It's just like that's just what you are. And so I feel like the insecurity comes from like not, it's like the self identity of like who's your inner self, like the moon, like um because the sun's so natural, but like the inner feelings of like who am I as like a spirit, like as a soul. And that's where like true security comes from. That's what I've learned as a Pisces is like, you know, I tried people pleasing for a while too. And my Chiron's in Leo. So I learned like, oh, I'm not going to get any attention because I like the only security I'm going to find is like my own spiritual sense of self. Which I feel like eventually that's what like Leo comes to find is that like their outer expression like is different than their inner expression. And then they learn that like their inner expression is like just as bright as their outer expression.
Yeah, what that raises for me is it reminded me that an insecurity I have really had my whole life is, I think by nature, I love to talk to people. I'm very outgoing, but I think a bit charismatic. It's easy for me to talk to people. And so that's led me to question many times if I've actually gotten things because of merit or if I've somehow like sneakily charmed my way into receiving things I didn't earn.
Oh, interesting. Hmm. You're just a Leo. Maybe you charmed yourself into it. It's because of your energy, though.
Yeah, I don't think it's a negative thing. Like when I think about it logically, I don't think it's a negative thing, but that's just why it reminded me is it's kind of a tension between like the inner self and the outer self that you were just talking about.
Well, and I've also like, you know, I've often thought about even when I'm around you, when I'm around a lot of like just extroverted people that maybe have a lot of Leo in their charts and just are so like fun and outgoing, like I have this insecurity of just like, why can't I just do that? Like my inner world is so big and like everything in me is talking, but it's not on the outside. Like I'm constantly having these like inner world thoughts and like this deep reflective inner being, and none of it is happening on the outside of me. And it's just so interesting of like how it can be someone's natural energy. Um, so like for Leo, it's just like their natural energy is to be charming, to get the opportunity to you know, perform, make their way to the top, make their way to like acting and like theater and like be the one that makes it. Because that's just like their natural energy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think even when it's your natural energy, you do it without thinking about it. And then when it comes to the inwardly processing time, um, you can feel kind of like a fraud.
Right.
Like, how much of this how much of this is actually me and how much am I performing?
See, think you
Yeah.
nailed it on the head right there. That is what it is.
Yeah. Because even to myself, I don't like necessarily have an answer for that. And I'm not consciously performing, but I think that's just my natural inclination.
Mm-hmm. So then it would be a reflection on like, yeah, how much of your life are you performing and how much of your life are you creatively expressing you?
Yeah, no idea.
Oh, wow. Okay. This has been a great interview, Alexis. I'm not done yet though.
Okay.
One
We're just
little
gearing up.
part left, which is what I've been doing lately. So one of my favorite astrologers has this new thing where they talk about like the energies that you're using every day based on your personal planets. And so after looking at your personal planets and the energy that you use every day, I think it is super interesting. So your sun's in Leo, moon's in Gemini, Mercury's in Leo, Venus is in Cancer, and Mars is in Libra. And so when I think about the places that you're operating from on a daily basis, like the energy that is being activated most often in your energy body, it would be your solar plexus. And that's like 3 times activated with Leo, Cancer. So, like getting up, taking action in the day probably isn't a super hard thing for you to do. Like you're probably always finding something new that you want to get up and go do, and like acting out of Leo, like going outside and doing things. Moon is in Gemini, which is the sacral chakra. And so, also what solar plexus, that's relational. So it's relationships.
Okay.
So
That's
talking,
definitely true.
relating. So that's solar plexus. Gemini, which is sacral, which is creativity. And also like, yeah, it's like creative projects, but also like communication. Um, so like communication, but it's like kind of like nonverbal communication. So it's like being around like body language. One related to another, like Gemini. So we've got, yeah, solar plexus, sacral chakra, and then Libra, which is the heart. So you're operating from your heart, your solar plexus, and your sacral all day long, which means there's probably a lot of energy here, which, if not using other energy centers throughout the day, could create anxiety. And just like circling in this. So, yeah, I just thought that was interesting that it's like all right here.
Yeah. Isn't there a crown chakra?
Yep.
Yeah, so I have nothing going on up here.
Yeah, so I've written down, so the root chakra, which is, taking time to exercise and make money and do like body care, which I feel like you do that already, like naturally, like you figured out that you have to like take care of your body.
Yeah, I could be better at it for sure.
And so then your throat chakra is speaking your truth and expressing the self. And I feel like that's very different than just like, I feel like the relational in solar plexus is very much like we were talking about, like meeting other people, talking, like, how are you? How are you doing? Like, it's the very much like socializing. But like the throat chakra is like speaking what you really think and like who you really are and like creative thoughts that you have. It's also listening. So that
that is so funny. But it, for as long as I can remember, I get really nervous about having confrontations, or I get very uncomfortable about speaking up for myself, or I don't know, just having uncomfortable conversations. And I always feel like my throat is literally closing. And so for as long as I can remember, I can think of so many different people who play different roles in my life, and it doesn't actually matter what the role is. I'll tell them I need to have a serious conversation, and when I sit down with them, I'll just stare at them because I feel like I literally can't get the words out of my throat.
Oh,
so something to work on.
Yeah, how could we help that?
Well, my yoga teacher taught me to do this, like just do like stretches, opening the throat chakra right before you go into a difficult conversation.
Mm-hmm. What I do as part of qigong is like this thing where you massage it like this and like pull energy out of it. Yeah. That, or like, I think what helped me, because I also had a bad throat chakra too, I didn't have anything there, was when I created my YouTube channel and my podcast, was like just like talking about myself and my story just made it easier for me to talk about things that were like important to me, like on a soul level. And so when it came to like communicating with others about it, it was like easier because I had been practicing. So
Definitely.
whether it's just on a voice memo or something, like maybe practice the conversation before you have it.
Yeah.
Third eye, which we
The
were
spiritual, is that the spiritual?
so no, which people think it is.
Yeah.
So like, and you know, Pisces isn't associated with third eye. Fun fact, it's associated with the crown chakra. Third eye, like we were talking about the other day, are the people that have like, they're like the visionaries. Like they're like the creatives that like are able to look at something and like reconstruct it like from like visual. And so here would be like visualizing your life, planning, like looking at structure. Being in service to the collective is very third eye because it's like we're connected to everyone. So it's like doing things in service to other people to feel more connected in that way. And then like having a passion project that you're working towards. That's all very like third eye energy, which I'm also working on right now. You know, I feel like I've tried like painting and doing stuff like that to like help it, but I just need to like massage it some more. Come on, wake up, buddy.
Yeah, if it's not your natural instinct, I guess you gotta just keep practicing.
And then crown chakra, which is like, you know, what I do, meditation and like spirit world stuff, looking at yourself as an energetic being. Not to say that you have to come from there all the time, but just like trying to balance out your energy in those ways sometimes could help.
Okay. This is giving me ideas. It really is.
I just think it was so helpful when I learned that. And I feel like I just want everyone I know to like know about it. Cause like if we could just change what we're doing with our energy every day and then that like just like naturally heals us. So cool. Like we wouldn't have to go to the doctor because like we're not just like constantly just coming from one energy center. We can just like start talking on a YouTube video and then it, like the energy's moving better. I just like that idea. So
yeah.
Anyway, I guess those are all the questions that I've had for you, Alexis. Do you have any questions for me about Leo and astrology and all this stuff?
Oh, this is no, this was super informational for me. Um, I guess maybe a hard question is, on the whole, if there were like, if there's like one trait Leos should generally lean into and one trait that Leos should generally work to overcome, are you able to say what those two traits would be?
Okay. Well, yes, it relates to your life purpose energy. And so I'd say since you have so much Leo and your sun is in Leo, your life purpose has greatly to do with like you expressing yourself. And so you like one would think like, oh, like Leo, did they just naturally express themselves? But like, are you truly expressing yourself?
Right? Or are you performing yourself?
Are you performing yourself? And so it would be like um having these personal transformations and like feeling on top of the world when you realize that you're actually expressing your soul to other people that you're close to or just in the world in general. Because Leo is like just on a stage. Um, so that would be like the thing to embrace is like creatively expressing like your soul. Because it's like you'll find more success like if you're on that path. Um, and then negative traits. I don't necessarily think like when I think about the negative traits of a sign, I don't think of like how I can like try to overcome them. Like we were talking about earlier, like I think of the opposite sign to my sign because that like helps balance you out.
Mm.
And so for me, I have 3 planets in Pisces and Virgo balances me out of like making sure I'm organized and like nurturing myself and having candles and all these things that I don't think about because I'm so it's like trying or like getting a dog, you know, feeling like close to something that's like earthy. So that's like how I balance myself out. So for you, opposite of Leo would be Aquarius. And Aquarius, if you were leaning into the sign of Aquarius, would be how to help the collective.
Mm.
And so I feel like that's where you could balance some things out that you maybe like feel like are more attention seeking and like seeking to express these things to serve your community or like the world as a whole. You would
Yeah.
probably find more like purpose in yourself and like in your relationships to others.
I like that a lot.
So that's what I have.
All right. Well, then thank you for joining us for this on a Monday, on a rainy Monday afternoon in Detroit. Contrary to what people may think about Detroit, it is very hot here in the summer.
So hot, we're sweating.
It's so hot.
Oh, Alexis, I love you.
I love you too.
I'll always love you.